Let me do my intro right now, and I'll be back in a minute. In this live stream, we're comparing the 2025 Samsung S90F, their mid-tier QD OLED, against last year's flagship QD OLED S95D, currently my benchmark reference TV for OLED performance. To make things interesting, I've peeled off the anti-reflective matte layer from my S95D that many argue diminishes contrast a touch. And on the S90F, I peeled off a layer too, but it's only the protective screen. And this is what they look like against a bright doorway reflection. Clearly without any coating at all. You see everything on the S95D. But we'll be in a light-controlled room during the live stream, so it shouldn't be a distraction. Lastly, the only adjustment I made to the S90F is to adjust contrast down to 45 like on the S95D, because this improves specular detail without reducing brightness barely at all. Now, let's get into the live stream and bring your questions. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that, but let's put up the TVs real quick. There we go. S95D, of course, on top, S90F on the bottom. And as we go through the different images, I'll of course adjust everything. Currently, both are in filmmaker mode, and that's it, out of the box. Nothing has been calibrated. My goal is to really explore how similar is the S90F to the S95D. And I'm telling you, it's quite impressive what I'm seeing in terms of the image processing, just everything, right? Now, there will be some differences, and as we get to some of those scenes, I'll explain it to you guys. But ultimately, I would say, just out of the box, out of the gate, just image quality. We're not talking about anything else right now. Pure image quality in filmmaker mode, the S90F nails it as far as peak brightness, overall brightness. Now, the slight differences are this. When pushed through the absolute limits, we're talking maybe 2000 nits in color. And actually, let me push it to the one scene, and we'll take your questions. That's why I'm kind of like, I want to get the amazingness of the S90F out of the way first. But let's say something like this. Okay. When specular highlights are about this big, straight on identical, right? Neither TV is brighter than the other. What an achievement for the S90F. In other words, it feels like Samsung simply unleashed the S90F to perform like the S95D last year, except without the anti-glare matte coating. And know that my S95D doesn't have the anti-glare matte coating either, right? So it's not at a disadvantage for sure. So if you were thinking of peeling off your S95D, or rather buying an S95D, then peeling it off, just get the S90F instead, because you're getting some level of anti-glare, but definitely none of that matte aggressiveness if that's not what you want. And secondly, it feels like, what if they took the S95D last year, got rid of the One Connect box, right? Put everything into the frame of the TV, you get the S90F, and essentially that's what I think they did, right? They just took the S95D, it's amazing, and then said, you know, let's save money, get rid of the One Connect box, get rid of the anti-glare, because that also costs money, and just put it out, right? You know, cheaper stand, it works, it's functional. No, actually, I like it a lot. It's toolless. You slap it on, you pull it down, no tools. At first I was like, wait, did Samsung forget to send me screws? I go, oh, no screws necessary. Or in the middle of this live stream, you're gonna see a TV fall off. There were screws, but I don't think so. I think it's toolless, screw-free, which I think other TV makers can learn from this, right? But the S90F feels like the S95D, just the way you guys want it. Stripped down, the bare minimum. Now, unfortunately though, price being what it is, and let's move on from this scene, right? But there are other scenes where the S95D actually does make a case for itself, and we'll get to those scenes shortly. But it's very few and far between, And more importantly, it's not noticeably different. Let me see, something like this, possibly. Nope, not this one. See how hard it is for me to find where they separate themselves? Oh, it could be this one. It's nuts, isn't it? Could be. Nope, it's not this one either. Identical, right? Adjust the exposure, seeing if there's any brightness differences between these two. And this is a bright scene? Nope, not this one. I think it's this one. Let's see. 4,000 nit content at its brightest part. Yes, I found it. It is this one. So, literally barely half a stop, and I'll tell you why. Up here, right here, because the window is larger, it's possible that the S95D has better thermal management, maybe by software, but when the windows get a little bit larger, but as if you can notice, right? But when the windows get a touch larger, like there, and I'd say that'd be like maybe a 5% window, when it's a little bit larger like that, the S95D gets half a stop brighter, if that. I mean, what is that in nits? Hard to say because nits is logarithmic, but ultimately it's not noticeable because I'm looking at side by side, and if it isn't for the camera showing me that the top is slightly brighter, I really could not tell. And when it's half a stop, your eyes are not going to notice the difference, definitely. Let me try to see. And it's not even that the top is brighter per se. Just a larger part of it is slightly brighter, but the center part is the same brightness. So the S95D is able to make that brightness cover a larger area. And so to me, it's insignificant, right? Everything else is the same. Look at the tiny little sun below, right? The HDR tone mapping, phenomenal. Okay, here we go. Let's get to something a bit more challenging. Here's one. It's a different color, right? So we had yellow before, now we're in blue. Yeah, indistinguishable. They are the same brightness, and anyway, so I just had to jump out there and share with you. So far in these scenes, I'm having a hard time finding differences between these TVs in terms of absolute performance. Barely. The S95D just barely is brighter at the brightest part. And let me lower the exposure a bit so maybe you guys can see that a bit better, but it's hardly noticeable, not worth any price difference in my opinion. The reason it may appear to have more detail, twofold. One, in the scenes where the other TV might be slightly brighter, the less bright TV always appears to have more detail because the camera cannot, like your eyes are much better at a multi-exposure in the same scene. The camera isn't, right? So the camera is focused on either exposing for the slightly less bright TV, which kind of clips the detail on the brighter TV, or vice versa. But either way, the TV's detail, shadow detail, I'm telling you, very hard to distinguish. Now, of course, this is kind of praising the S90F. The S95D, on people whose screen has not been peeled, where you remove the anti-glare layer, would the S90F be better? Arguably, in a brighter room, I'd say yes, but then you saw all that reflection. The trade-off is you're not going to get the loss in contrast in a brighter room, but you will definitely get the distraction. So this is why I peel it off, actually, is to see, really, for the S90F, can it match a fully peeled S95D without any obstacles in its way? And I'd say it's right there. I mean, it could be a panel variance. The closeness in which they're performing is also within the margin of error between panel to panel lottery. In other words, you guys could get an S90F that is arguably brighter than an S95D that's a little bit less bright given the range of possibilities when you buy a TV, right? Let's say there's a 100 nit difference. Actually, it's actually closer to 150 between the quote-unquote dimmest panel for the S95D to its brightest panel. You could be within 150 nits difference, and definitely an S90F would fall within that range if you choose one of the, or can't even choose, but if you happen to have a brighter one, you would see people doing the same comparison, saying, wait, how come my S90F is brighter? I can see that as well. So as far as I'm concerned, so far, I spent all day doing this and some of last night or all morning, and I am just having fun. Now, well, let's get to your questions real quick. So, let's just play through this. But I had to kind of get that out there just in case you're on the fence and you wanted to buy. And I did put a link to the 77-inch currently on sale on Samsung.com. If you're an offer member, like AAA member, right? Auto Association of America or military or all that, become a member, or if you're already a member, definitely check it out. That pricing that I posted on top of the chat is pretty compelling, right? It's like $2,300 for a 77-inch. Pretty good. Now, the S95F definitely is brighter, but is that important to you? I say it is if you need bright in a bright room, but in a dark room, this is definitely more than bright enough. So tell me your use case and let's get to your questions. This is amazing. Oh, hey, Classy. So FOMO, do you want to try the color brightness fix on the S90F? So Classy, he is our experimenter extraordinaire, and he wants me to do this fix. Switch the gamut to custom BT2020, then switch it to normal, then turn color down to 20. All right, so I'm gonna find a good scene with different colors. So when I do that, you guys can see for yourself what that looks like. So in the meantime, let me get to a quick super chat that we just came in. And we'll get back to that. So let me save this. We're going to return to that in a minute. Hey, Alejumbe, Underground Stranger, thank you for your generosity. I'm finally getting a TV this weekend. Just in time. I'm torn between the LG C4 at 77 inches or the S90D at 77 inches or the LG B4 at 83 inches. They're all the same price. I do like Dolby Vision, but if the Samsung is better, I can sacrifice. So in the 77-inch size, the S90D is definitely better. It is literally the best image quality bang for the buck per inch, but I am also very compelled by your 83-inch LG B4, and this is why. First, what is the content you're watching? If you're telling me, oh, you watch mostly TV shows, streaming, different dramas, right? Not a big deal. And you really don't care about bright HDR because you don't even know what that is, because that's fair. Most streaming, all streaming, does not get very bright. Hits 1,000 nits. Now, the B3 would be my choice for most content, streaming, news, whatever, as long as you have light control. Now, if you're in a very bright room, and you need the TV to get super bright, that's not what the B3 does. The B3, in my opinion, has amazing color accuracy out of the box, better than the C3 and C4 even, but more importantly, you get that size immersion. So I love the size of the B4, and the 77-inch S90D is just a good TV, period, right? QD OLED, bright, punchy. For the size, it would be between those two. So I suggest, Alijimbe, first, what is it you watch normally? Just regular streaming, nothing special. Go to a store, retailer, and compare it. What's the size of the 83-inch compared to the 77? Because if you like the 83/85-inch size, get the 83, because you will be regretting size more than slight punchier HDR that you're not going to see unless you put in the right content, like what I'm using here, right? I'm using Jennifer Gala's content so you guys can get that bright content. But otherwise, you're really going to see these TVs separate themselves. So yeah, let me know what kind of content you watch and maybe we can nail that down for you. So in the meantime, let's get to this playful color experiment here. All right. I think there's a perfect scene for that. Let me see. Could it be this one? Could be. Could be. I think it is. Oh yeah, this would be it. Actually, you know what? There's an even more colorful scene. Huh, how about that one? All right, we all love a good colorful chameleon. This is the perfect one. So, what was the suggestion here? S90F switch gamut to custom BT2020. So let's do that. And by the way, this is what I like about the S90F. This one UI makes it quicker for me. It's easily 1 to 2, sometimes 3 clicks fewer to get to the setting I want. So it's pretty good. The one UI is great. I'm waiting for that upgrade to come to the S95D and all previous years. I think it's going to come eventually, but it's already on the S90F and I love it. I just love it. So much easier. And you get to see your image as you're changing stuff, right? So let's go down, color settings. We want custom BT2020. Here we go. Okay, we're at custom BT20, then switch it to normal. So we're here, and then, all right, go up, normal. Okay, and then turn color down to 20. All right. Okay, with those changes in mind, classy, what did I just do? Is it supposed to be more accurate? Is it supposed to be more pleasant? Is it fixing something that's wrong? Kind of let us know what we did here. Now, it still looks very similar, right? And I've done nothing to, so you guys have a comparison. Let's look at what the setting is for. All right, let's see what the setting is. Darn these remotes. All the buttons look the same. All right, let's try this again. Okay, let's look at what the setting is for the S95D. So we're in filmmaker mode, expert, brightness, contrast 45, color 25. So everything's default, right? Static. And my color is auto. All right, so that's a comparison to basically out of the box default. All right, so let's look at some of the colors with this one. Let's start with faces, right? Let's see what we see here. See any differences? So 2 to 4,000 at content. I see it deeper red. So definitely there is a deeper red with the S90F. And the brightness, wow, same brightness. It doesn't affect brightness at all. I want to see if you guys notice that slight red saturation with this on the S90F. But definitely the red is deeper. Can you guys tell? I know it's YouTube compression. I'm seeing it on my monitor. It's very subtle. Just don't know if you guys see it. So I'm adjusting my contrast, or not contrast, my exposure carefully. All right, so this is with Classy's adjustment. So let's see. What did we just do here, Classy? All right, and then just lower it to 48. Okay, so we'll lower contrast to 48. All right. Okay. And you know what? We'll match the S95D as well. So that way we won't be accused of hampering the S95D's performance. There you go. Okay, and if we see clipping, we'll play with contrast again. But right now, they're not clipping, neither of them are. But definitely, the red is deeper. The top feels more orange. I don't know if you guys noticed that, because red on red is not as noticeable as differences in blue, right? But so that's that. Let's see if there's blue. Oh, look at that. There's some blue here. Actually, her eyeshadow is also redder. I got to do that because I saw that immediately. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but S95D eyeshadow is a touch more orange. S95F, S90F is definitely that red. Okay. And yep, that's what we did. So we got that done. We get it back to normal. Yeah. So, classically, not only did the color brightness change, well, we'll have to see. I'm seeing deeper reds in the lipstick right here and in the eyeshadow. But that lipstick is definitely a deeper red. Now, without it being side by side, if I walked from one room to the next, I don't think I could carry that difference with me. But when it's this bright, so the beads look identical, right? What a great scene. Thank you so much, Jennifer Gallo, for making this happen. I linked her channel in the description below. This is where it's bright, and that's where it's different. So genius. Thank you, Classy. We'll have to hold on to that suggestion. So right, where it's not super bright, they look the same, right? But where it's bright, yes, it is that deeper. So the question is, can anything be done to the S95D to match that? I know we're using S95D as out-of-the-box comparison, and your quick fix is amazing. Can we assume that if I did the same to the S95D, we'd get the same improvement? But yeah, that's awesome. Bravo, my friend, bravo. All right, got a couple super chats. Let's hit it. And in the meantime, let's move on. So you guys get some scenes. Here we go. Here's another one. This one, less noticeable. Okay. All right, super chat. Lax, thank you for your generosity. Meaningful difference in the basic picture of WOLED, LG C4, and QD OLED tandem. Real world content. Darkroom reference profiles, disregarding brightness and high nit color volume. Staying within P3. Very good question. So, and QD OLED or tandem. So we have three technologies we're comparing. WOLED doesn't have any additional panel improvements to get it to accurate HDR brightness. So in SDR, within the 100 nit content, let's say, they should all look the same. The C4, the QD OLED, and the tandem, right? Because you're within the ability of all of them. Disregard. Now you can't reference profiles disregarding brightness and high nit color volume. So if you say disregarding brightness and high nit color volume, you're literally disregarding HDR content that is above 1,000 nits. And I mean, actually even above 800 nits. This is where the C4 starts to show its weaknesses as you get deeper into HDR without being crazy HDR, right? Not even talking about Pan or Mad Max, right? That's kind of like the handful of powerfully bright HDR. But we're talking maybe 1,000 to 1,200 nits of HDR. Sometimes that full screen is a bit brighter than the C4 can handle. It'll be a little bit dimmer. Now, without a TV next to it, you can't tell that it should be brighter. And that's the thing. In a light-controlled room, the C4 is absolutely fine for most movies, right? SDR especially. But when you start wanting that HDR pop, that is creator's intent for those movies, the C4 is going to fall a little short. But if it's mostly TV shows, broadcast TV, cable, the C4 is really just fine, especially in filmmaker mode, right? But then if you want standard mode, the modes that, like you say, ignore the brightness, but in a bright room, people are going to use cinema, cinema home, standard, all of that, all of those modes, the C4 will fall behind. So hopefully that helps you with your question. But C4, filmmaker, SDR, everyone else, right, against the same reference, it should be the same. And Getty, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Mid-tier battle, Hisense U8Q versus Sony Bravia 7. Given the price of the Sony Bravia 7, well, first of all, I don't think the U8Q can fairly be described as mid-tier. It is arguably Hisense's flagship. I know the U9Q will be out at some point, but that is kind of like flexing brightness. I think the image processing may actually be very similar. Hey, I'm guessing, I could be wrong. The Bravia 7 is last year's TV. The U8Q is this year's TV. I suspect the U8Q is significantly, first, should have better blooming control, which we saw against the Bravia 9. It's actually very good blooming control. It's just lacked that tone mapping. And I think the Bravia 7, as we saw last year against the Bravia 9, matched it in tone mapping, but fell behind in blooming control and dark scenes. So pricing battle, you know what? I'm going to have to punt on this. I have to study the U8Q some more because I know the Bravia 7 in certain scenes, you're going to have a little bit more blooming just because it has so few dimming zones. But what it has, it does really well. But in regular content, I think they're a match. They're going to look identical with the Bravia 7 having more accurate skin tones out of the box, no doubt. We saw how I had the teal issue with my U8Q. Maybe it's panel lottery and I lost the teal lottery, but the Bravia 7, consistently just Sony Bravias in general, don't have that issue out of the box. So I think if skin tones are important, you got to go with the Bravia 7. And it has nothing to do with it being mid-tier. I expect the same from the Bravia 5 as well. It's just a Sony thing. They just love that skin tone accuracy or natural skin tone, right? Right, but thank you for coming in, guys. This is amazing. Okay. And if I missed your questions because I'm answering a super chat, keep on asking. Eventually, I will get there. I'm looking through catching up with your comments and questions right now. And some people feel that the specular levels are better on the S90F. And you know what, Lee? I'm not watching while I'm talking. It may be. So I'm not saying that the S90F is a match or slightly worse. I bet you there are trading blows here and there, but definitely the S90F is newer and maybe having a slight change in how they encase it with a slight software tuning, maybe it is doing a little bit better, right? And we definitely tuned it with Classy's help. We have it in a slightly more accurate color mode, and it's making a difference when there's red, that's for sure. Like here, they look the same. But let me see if there's other playful content. We can look at this one. Let me see. Yeah, every time I think I see a scene where one is brighter than the other, I'm wrong. Same brightness. So yes, this S90F is definitely impressing me for sure. For sure. The S95F is better than both of these. And Viva, that is of course the case, right? I mean, it's literally $1,000 more than the S90F. And that's why you're paying that extra $1,000. It's to get the increase in brightness and all of that stuff. There's no doubt that it's using not just the latest panel, but also pushing that panel to what it should be. And the S90F is just, look, last year this is great. Let's make our mid-tier match last year's flagship and reserve the extra punch and performance for the S95F. So no doubt, can't compare a flagship to a mid-tier and say that the mid-tier is even close. I mean, it's close, but definitely the S95F separates itself. And FOMO needs to do a video about it. No context. I just walked into that one. I will, I guess. Let me know what is it I need to do a video about. Okay, here we go. This is a good one. The Adventures of Squirrel. I watch a lot of horror movies, action movies, thrillers, yada yada. Lots of movies that could take place in nighttime setting, right? So those moody scenes we always talk about. Due to watching so much movie content, I like HDR to be bright. So I mean, I assume you mean to say you want your shadow detail to be brighter, right? And all TVs have some gamma adjustment for brighter rooms, whether it's actual gamma or whether it's brightening some of the midtones or dark tones or whatever. So there are ways for you to elevate that brightness depending on the TV model. Now, I know that the LG G5 is currently struggling with HDR content, streaming, I guess low bit rate or even high bit rate. I'm gonna have to study that. I don't have it yet. It's apparently on its way. The 65 inches are finally out. Once I get the G5, I will definitely compare it to my Bravia 8 II, which is amazing. And if I should still have the S90F. So maybe we'll do a comparison, right? Four-way, the Bravia 8, S90F, and the G5. So you guys can see for yourself for this kind of scene, which is serious movie watching where, you know, Academy Award winning, you're gonna have dark scenes, right? 1917 is another great one. We'll see how well the G5 does or doesn't do. Okay. Okay. There we go. Follow up, Viva. Do you have the TV or are you just listening to what people say? So if you caught my live stream, we had 2 8-hour, 7-hour live streams with the S95F next to the G5 and the G4 and the Bravia 8 II and the S95D. I don't think anyone has had all 5 TVs side by side. Trust me when I say we know how well the S95F did, and it did do well. But how much content, so go back and watch my live streams, how much content did it look identical to the other TVs? And how much content do we say, wait a minute, in this bright room, it's just washed out? And as a matter of fact, by the end of the second live stream with Bravia 8 II, people were declaring the S95F was dead because in a bright room, the lifted blacks and the loss in contrast was so visible that they're like, okay, we're done. Let's get the G5 and call it a day. And so no TV is perfect though. And this is something people have to be very clear with. Every TV has their strength and use case. The S95F and the S95D, that's why I chose it to be my benchmark, in a dark room, light controlled room, it's amazing. Okay, period, we're good there. In a bright room, it cannot be amazing because 2 problems. 1, the QD OLED has a scatter plate. You guys saw how it lifts the black with that scatter plate and color shifts with the scatter plate. You add in the matte screen, it adds further color shifting and you lose contrast in a slightly bright room, right? It doesn't have to be super bright. You weren't even shining a light. It was just a bright room. And so that's just something to consider. I don't want people coming in thinking, oh, the S95F is be all end all. Then they bring it into a bright room. What the hell? I can't see anything, right? So that's something that people have to consider, that QD OLED, the actual technology, has a scatter plate. It absorbs ambient light, period. We don't have to discuss that further until Samsung finds a way to offset that. It is what it is. It's the perfect darkroom TV. So for a man cave, I'm all about it. But for a bright room, you have options, right? I mean, the S90D also, QD OLED, you can have the same problem, or the S90F, S95D, it doesn't matter. It's just something that people need to understand so that you know, no single TV is the end all be all, no doubt. The best HDR movie on 4K UHD. Can someone recommend? Man, best to show off or best because the best to show off brightness? Alpha. Movie? Not a great movie. But brightness and showing off your TV's ability to show bright scenes, it's legit 4,000 nits. So there are only, I'd say, 3 bright movies graded to be bright. Alpha is one, Pan in that scene specifically is one, and Mad Max Fury Road, right? They have quite a few scenes that get bright. Is the S90F glossy and not when connect? Correct. The S90F is glossy. Well, glossy might be overstating it. It doesn't have a matte screen, right? It has anti-glare. And you guys, if you go back to the beginning of this live stream, you can see what anti-glare is and what no anti-glare, where it's just super gloss. You could completely see the reflection of my rear window doorway, right? So, but yeah, it is. It's what people wanted the S95F to be. But the S90F has that. However, it's not as bright. Oh, I think this is it. This is the one where it's full screen, and the S90F cannot get as bright in that full screen. I think it could just be a color difference. Let's just see. Yep, definitely. Let me see how. Yeah, I mean, it's minor. It's say at most a 1-stop difference in this bright scene. I don't know if you guys can see that difference, like kind of just exposure. But see how subtle that is? That's the difference between the S95D when it's full screen white and the S90F, slightly brighter on the S95D, ever so slightly. But you have to have that large window to see that difference. And I'd say at most, a stop, at most. And this is a good point. Sessicool. After watching the ratings review, Artings, the G5 has higher input lag at 165 Hz, which only affect PC gamers gaming at that point. But yes, at that speed, that refresh rate, it appears to have dropped by, let's see, it's like 3 times the input lag. But that's not an issue for most people. Like most PC gamers are not spending $3,500 to get this to game at 165, because if you have that nice of a PC equipment, why aren't you getting a 500 hertz, 240 hertz, 360 hertz real gaming monitor, right? Because you're leaving performance on the table at just 165. So the HDR10 Plus though is the other issue. That one actually affects more people. Consumers watching HDR10, not necessarily 10 plus, just HDR10 in general. So if you're streaming slightly low bit rate, that color banding in the dark scenes or in scenes where you have gradients, and I'm going to have to study this, it is an issue. It's something that the LG G3 struggled with and the G4 mostly addressed, and it appears to be back again. So hopefully now that LG knows how to address it, thanks to the G4, they can apply what they learned to G5. Now, QD OLED still rules in 2025. I'm thinking the Bravia 8 II has a little bit of the best of both worlds. It's QD OLED, right, the latest generation, but it doesn't have the matte anti-reflective that a lot of people don't like. So is it possible that the Bravia 8 II is the one that rules 2025? That one is going to be one that we'll have to see at the shootout. Does the S95F have the dreadful anti-glare coating? It's all relative, but yeah, that's the controversial one. It is improved. I must say, the S95F anti-glare, we tested it at the live stream a couple weeks back, last month, and its anti-glare definitely is a step above the S95D and the S90F, right? So we had it side by side. If you put a direct light on the S95D, you see these weird vertical or horizontal patterns. That's the nature of that matte screen. It's not there on the S95F. And the S95F feels like it does a better job diffusing it without making it pop, that brightness it diffuses it better rather than reflecting it back at you. So definitely you can see a noticeable improvement in the anti-glare matte coating. Now, whether it's dreadful or not depends on your use case. I know a lot of people love it. So yeah, but in a bright room, you're gonna notice the loss in contrast on either TV. All right, here's a great question. X ready to clicks. These names, I love you. Coming from a G2 and planning to upgrade to a Bravia 8 II Mark II. Do you think it's a big step up? G2, the Bravia 8 Mark II. Let's just stop there. Absolutely. Brightness, color saturation, bright content, HDR, it is a big step up. There's no doubt about it. Mostly gaming and watching some movies over Apple TV, that's fine. Now, mostly gaming, if it's console gaming, the Bravia 8 Mark II is fine. But if you are one of the more particular PC gamers that need certain modes, that needs specifically HGIG to do certain things, you know what? You're going to have to go into the gaming forums. I'm not even going to go there. I think for console gaming, PS5, Xbox, Bravia 8 Mark II is amazing looking. But if you want more options, I get it. I get it. And watching some movies over Apple TV, yeah, fine. S95F, Z95B, and G5 are all $39.99. Bravia 8 is $32.99. Oh, get the Bravia 8. I mean, in the US, it's reverse. The Bravia 8 Mark II is $39.99, and the other TVs are $3,300. So given that you flipped it, I think the Bravia 8 Mark II has all the strengths of the S95F, plus, if you want Dolby Vision, it has it. And if you want no anti-glare, you're bothered by the matte screen, it has it. The two minuses. The Bravia 8 Mark II doesn't come in a 77-inch. The S95F does. The S95F, some people prefer its operating system, Tizen versus Google TV, and some people might need that anti-glare matte screen. But otherwise, I'd get the less expensive TV. And of course, the G5 is still going through its early teething stages. And we've said this before, last year, even before the TV was released. This is a first adopter TV, the G5. Those of you getting the first year of the primary RGB OLED, I don't want to hear complaints, right? We specifically said, if you're into new technology, you get it, you enjoy what makes it amazing, and you live with the stuff that's going to be fixed next year. Many of you said, completely agree. You're going to wait till the G6, and you're going to watch the fun with all those who buy the G5 and grip about why is their G5 broken. That's why I have the G5, is to go through that process with you guys to share, oh, well, look what happened here, right? Just like the G3 demonstrated early teething pains with the MLA, right, which they fixed in the G4, it's unavoidable that the G5's first generation primary RGB OLED is going to have teething pains. The only question is, can it be fixed in a firmware, which I hope it is, because I have the G5, but more importantly, I'm going to get the Panasonic Z95B. Same exact technology, different processor though. What can Panasonic do to address this, if at all? So that'd be very interesting to see. Maybe Panasonic ends up being the winner. So ready to kill? Maybe you should wait for the Panasonic Z95B, right? We don't know how that's going to look though. So, hard to tell you to get the Panasonic. Right now in that list, I would say with that price difference, get the Bravia 8 II. This definitely. All right, here, some super chats. Isaac at War, thank you, my friend. Can I use this as an alternative to the frame since it has the matte coating? How is the ambient mode? I'm glad you asked. The answer is absolutely not. Because Samsung specifically did not give its OLED TVs that picture mode, is it called? That frame mode, that art gallery mode, I think it's called. The art gallery is only on their Neo QLED and their QLED, right? It is not on their OLED TVs for a reason. They're just playing it safe. They don't want you to display images 24/7 and then somehow get burned in or something funky happens and shorten the life of the panel, whatever it is. It's very specific. Even though it has the matte coating, the QN90F, the QN990F, the QN900F, right? All these other QLED design TVs, not OLED, can be converted to the frame. It has art mode. The OLED TVs do not. So that's just something you have to think about. So its ambient mode is just like any other Samsung TV from prior years. That's not the frame. But this year, unique to non-frame TVs, you can get that frame feel with art mode that is not available on the OLED TVs. So sorry. And there's a good reason for that. Again, you buy an OLED for amazing image quality when watching content, not to display. And this is why the frame is so popular. It's even thinner, or as thin at least, as QD OLED. And so people get that to benefit from that super awesome thinness. Next up, Hobby. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Hey, FOMO, 98-inch TCL QM7K or 98-inch QM8, or wait for the 98-inch QM8K. So I'll have the QM8K next week. We'll go over some comparisons. I would say, just not having tested the QM8K yet, I'm still unboxing it, the QM8K is definitely designated to be better than those TVs. But what is the content you're watching? If it's just friends, old TV shows, news, the QM7K, all you need. Call it a day, you're done. Great TV at 100 inches. Take the price discount. I think it's like, what, under $4,000? I don't know about the value proposition of a much more expensive QM8K unless you are showing off this, like super bright content across the room, sports, where you have to eat through all that ambient light. I'd say you'd be really happy with, or most people would be happy with the 98-inch TCL QM7K because for most content, it looks phenomenal, right? All right, let's get caught up. Thank you, guys. Now, this is a great comment. Yes, it's dimmer. The C5 is a bit too cut down now compared to the G series. My friends, at one point, the C and the G performed identical, right? You couldn't even tell the difference. The only difference was G is like gallery, artsy, super thin, whatever, right? And now it's an actual performance image quality difference. So yeah, LG wanted to separate more than just cosmetics. They went all in with making the G5 the high performer and the C5 the value performer. Unfortunately, it's what it is now. You know, they wanted to separate the TVs, and that's what you get. So, but years ago, maybe with the C1, G1, couldn't tell the difference. All right, Reeb. Good comment. I feel that the goalpost continues to shift on the S95 anti-glare. If it's washed out in a bright room due to it, yet QD OLED panel itself can cause it, then what is best QD OLED TV for bright room? The S90? So many issues. So this is a great question. First of all, the matte screen does add to the issues. The QD OLED has its own issues. So when we had the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II next to the S95F in my live stream last month, what we saw was, wait, the Sony also had lifted blacks in the same bright room. And the S95F did a better job of eliminating any reflection that was behind me, right? So we had the live stream shooting here, and behind me were these weird lights and whatever, because, you know, it is a showroom. Those specular highlights behind me was not visible at all on the Samsung. But on the Sony, they were there. Like, if you were looking for it, you go, oh yeah, in this scene, now that it's a dark scene, I can see it. Samsung, never visible. Now, that is great. That's a plus for the anti-glare. So, but if you had that specular highlight a little bit brighter, that's when the anti-glare matte screen suddenly becomes a negative. Now, it kind of blows, it blooms, right? It opens up, it blooms out. And by blooming out, it becomes more distracting. And you'd rather it be like on the Bravia 8 Mark II, where it's limited to that little spot of light, right? A little tiny light. Well, it's still a tiny light on the Bravia 8, but if it gets bright enough on the S95F matte screen, it's diffused, right? Not as bright as on the Sony, a little bit less bright, but more diffuse. So for specular stuff behind you, perfect. But if those specular stuff get really bright, then it's a different issue. That's why we say, do not let direct sunlight hit the S95F or S95D, because it will then spread across the whole screen and then it's unwatchable. So definitely room-to-room differences. So to answer your question, then what is the best QLED TV for a bright room? The S90? It depends on your bright room, as I described it. I would say get the S95F anyway. And if you don't notice these things, because remember we had everything side by side, so then you notice the difference. If you bring it home, you don't notice anything, great, you win. You have a bright TV. But if you are bothered or you see, oh my gosh, the TV has this weird rays, then you have no choice but to get either the S90F or the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, which is limited to 55 and 65 inches. So if you're shopping 77-inch, you only have the S90F. Or, yeah, that's it, if you want QD OLED. But definitely room dependent. What is your room lighting like? Oh, Viva. There you go. Thank you for the clarification, FOMO. I was replying to Habs Fab 57. Sorry, I'm jumping in out of context, but hey, thanks for watching my live stream, buddy. And then Sony, Pony Steve, S90F or Bravia 8 Mark II will be the darling of 2025. Here's my prediction. The darling of 2025 depends on firmware updates. And I know Classy and I have been talking about this offline so often. Everything could be fixed in firmware, like you saw, right? Even adjusting a few settings on the S90F, suddenly it kind of outperformed the S95D, right? So once the calibrators get their hands on it and they push it to an inch of its maximum accuracy, what's left to do is the firmware. Can the firmware add to this improvement? And the G5 cannot be fixed with any amount of calibration. They need to address that color banding, posterization, contouring, as Ratings calls it. That needs to be fixed in software, and it could be, because we've seen it fixed before. Now, the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II currently, it appears to me, have no issues except Dolby Vision, maybe a question, right? We don't know what it's going to look like. Is it too bright? Is it too dim? But once calibrated, maybe it's perfect, because we're talking calibrated now. But we don't do Dolby Vision comparisons in a shootout, because Samsung doesn't do Dolby Vision. So you can't compare Dolby Vision, non-Dolby Vision. But in HDR10 content, the Sony and the Samsung may end up being so close that it all comes down to just how do they render the colors against the reference monitor. And the Sony is designed to be just like a Sony reference monitor. So that's why they consistently win. And why do they do that? Well, Sony reference monitors are the most popular in Hollywood as well, so it makes sense. And Samsung, they're doing their best, but can they add enough firmware fixes to make it perform even better than the Sony at higher luminous content? Because the Sony holds back luminance just a little bit, but you don't see that unless you have super bright reference content, which at a shootout you normally don't. You're using real content, real movies. And if the real movie doesn't push it, what are you grading against, right? So I think the Bravia 8II currently, as everything stands, is probably in the lead among calibrators and people like that who don't want to deal with the craziness of firmware updates. The S90F will be popular among regular everyday Joes. I mean, look, within a year, you're paying $1,000 less, you're getting flagship performance, and I'm completely in love with my S95D. But if you give me the S90F that is also missing the anti-glare matte screen, if both are available today, I get the S90F, right? I'm not a big fan of the One Connect box, because for me, it's just another point of failure, because I walk around, I kick the cords, you're gonna plug a bunch of stuff in. I like everything to be on the TV, but that's me. You guys might like the One Connect box, and that's fine too. But yeah, I agree. I think right now, and let's not leave out Panasonic. What do they say? The backup quarterback is everyone's favorite player. So the Panasonic Z95B, currently waiting in the wings to come out, and everyone is assuming that Panasonic will not have a problem with the contouring, posterization, color banding issues of the G5. So, and that's a big assumption. I'm assuming the same. And I've been in talks with Panasonic and they're very nervous. So believe me when I say they are looking at that. And of course, they won't tell me what they're doing. Well, we'll get the TV in due time, but it's just amazing what's happening. Oh, let me lower the exposure just a touch. Yep, the S95D is just a touch. Well, it's seen to see. I mean, right here, they're about the same. But yeah. Yeah, it's the two TVs are so similar. I love it. You can't lose with either one. Hi, John. So, did removal of the anti-glare screen from the S95F improve the picture? Is it too much of a mirror? So, I removed it from my S95D. I did not do it with the S95F. And yes, it is definitely like a mirror, but in a light-controlled room like here, you don't even notice it, right? But if I open the door and start adding lights everywhere, you will see it. And the answer is, it is a distraction. The S90F has anti-glare. It's just not as mirror-like. So I don't recommend you remove it, honestly. The improvement in a bright room, it's deeper blacks, 100%, but slightly. It's not like deep, deep, because in a bright room, if you're shining light directly on it, the anti-glare, spreads it out, but then the mirror, it's not spread out. It's just a giant bright mirror. Subjective, choose your poison, right? I wouldn't remove the anti-glare. I mean, I did it just to see, and it was quite the process, but it's not worth it. I just get the S90F and call it a day. But for me, it's too much of a mirror. I would say so, because I'm not always in a light controlled room. Like, I plan to take this S95D home to, to put in my room. And I'm thinking, how am I going to position it so I don't have lights behind me? Because I know, right? So, I have some ideas, but now I'm taking extra time to adjust for this TV. So I don't recommend it, guys. It is a distraction. But that's me. Some people love it, right? A lot of gamers who game completely in the dark, they want perfection. They'll strip it off and they're like, hey, I'm in a dark room. What do I care? And that's fine. Here's something interesting. Classy is saying that the Bravia 8 Mark II brightness is closer to the S90F than the S95F or the G5. Definitely the G5 kills it. And the 55-inch is about the same price as the 77-inch S90F. And I think that is very painful. Oh, but you know what? Sony fanboys will buy Sony, right? Right, Classy? The Bravia 8 II is behind in gaming features. Sony is not a gaming TV, no doubt. And the S90F is actually more accurate out of the box as well. So there you have it. Let me get to all your super chats real quick. Hobby, thank you for the follow-up. Or I think I missed. Here we go. This is the one. Ali Jimbe. PS5 streaming and 4K Blu-ray. Most important is 4K Blu-ray. And that refers to your earlier question up here. Let me jump on that real quick. 4K Blu-ray. Debating between the 77 S90D. I'd go with the 77-inch S90D. That will give you everything your 4K Blu-ray asked for, because a lot of content is being remastered for HDR. New HDR is coming out. You want a TV that's going to last for the next 5 to 10 years. And with that level of increasing HDR attention, the S90D will do it the most justice compared to all the other options you have. So at 77-inch S90D, you'll be thrilled. I'm all about it. And for PS5 gaming, it's fine. It's beautiful. I love it. So, but the 4K Blu-ray, okay, I get it. So you're looking at high quality Blu-ray media. You don't want to miss any detail, right? Because it feels that you're a true enthusiast. And let me see, double check. And Hobby, thank you for the follow-up. We'll be watching on 4K Blu-ray as well, Apple TV and sports, NBA soccer. And I do have decent light in my living room. Moving my S95C 77-inch to my bedroom. All right, so let's see what you have here. So you're in a decent, bright room. Then I would wait for the QM8K, and this is why. So the QM8K is definitely bright. We're talking over 5,000 nits. It is crazy bright. The QM7K is not designed to be that bright, right? Price separation for a reason. More importantly, the QM8K has a few things that I think will be better. It's using WHVA panel. The QM7K is a step down HVA. So this allows you to, watching sports, big room. I assume you have friends standing at far sides of the room. Get the QM8K. So that way everyone enjoys it for sports because big TV, big sports. Wait for Black Friday though. For sure the prices will drop. But yes, hopefully that answers your question. No one talks about the LG M series. I'll talk about it. The M series is literally the G series except wireless. So now you have to, it's the, well, I don't know if it's even the best G series, right? Because you have to remember the M is designed, it's good enough, it's an OLED. The people who buy the M are paying that extra $10,000 for that zero connect box. That's it. If you don't need zero connect, why are you adding an extra point of failure to your purchase? Because you don't need it. If you need it, you know why you need it, right? Design focus, super thin, no wires. I get it. But the picture quality, go with the G. The M is not better than the G. There's no, I mean, it may even be worse, arguably, in some things, but it's definitely not better. But that's not why it's there. It's for the zero connect box. So there you go. We talked about it. Hopefully that satisfies you. Oh, good question. Should I be using tone mapping on my G4 or let the tone mapping be done by the Panasonic? Do not let the Panasonic do the tone mapping. How old is this player? It's not even tone mapping technically. What it's doing is it's adjusting the brightness to match your TV, but that's not really tone mapping. The G4 is so far advanced compared to the Panasonic. The Panasonic is cutting back on information to get it to what it is. Don't do it, right? That is designed for projectors, technically, and the oldest OLEDs that just were so, it was clipping. It just couldn't handle the HDR brightness or whatever, right? Let the modern TV do the tone mapping. Today, the only machine that arguably could compete with the TV is the Mad VR. That is true tone mapping. How much does that cost? $14,000, right? I think the most affordable one's like $10,000. So a true tone mapping external device is Mad VR, 10 to 14,000. There's no way a Panasonic 820 player is even attempting to do that. It's doing what little it can, right? Let the G4 do the tone mapping. You have so many adjustments on it in professional mode or professional tone mapping, whatever. Play with it, have fun with it. Do not even consider the Panasonic. It was fun during the early years of OLED, but now it is completely obsolete. Oh, I can't believe it. We've been on for how long now? An hour. All right. Getting your questions? Come on in. And as you can see, those who just joined us, the S90F, S95D, it's, you can't separate anything, right? They are, brightness is a match. You could tune the color on either one. I mean, they are just, adjusting the colors on the S90F though, made actually a noticeable difference. Thank you again, Classy. But, scene to scene, they look identical to me. This is one where the TVs really separate themselves with brightness, specifically that grass, that green grass, but look the same. Shadow detail, pop, vibrancy. So yes, the S90F is definitely, but I know it's more expensive. So that's why I'm saying get the S95D if price is a consideration, if it is cheaper. But if the S90F is the same or cheaper, I'd consider the S90F. Robert, there's always the guy. How good is the 8K Neo QLED QN900F? Let me just broaden that question is, how good are 8K TVs anyway, whether it's the 990F or the 900F? You have so many compromises to take into account in order to have 8K pixels, right? The misunderstanding is, oh, 8K pixels is just 4 times as many pixels and you're done. That adds so many, it's like saying, you know, I have a Miata. What if I added 1,000 pounds of rice in the trunk? Is it going to go, is it going to be better? Like, you just weighed it down with another 1,000 pounds of rice. Well, don't worry, we'll just increase the engine's output to 1,000 horsepower. It's not going to be the same car. And this is the problem with a 900F. You got the 8K pixels. Oh, great, now it's dimmer. So you increase the energy consumption, you get it brighter. But guess what? The energy consumption is capped. You cannot even increase it adequately to match the loss of density or the increased density, right? And so now you're capped at how bright you can get it. And so the TV net ends up being dimmer. So it's a problem because you're adding, and the worst insult is, unless you have specific content and you're at a specific distance, you're not even going to benefit from seeing any additional resolution with 8K. And so, like, you know, from where I'm standing, you know, 15 feet away, 18 feet away, 8K will look identical to 4K, right? So how good is the QN900F? No worse than the QN90F, I guess. I don't know if that's what you wanted to ask, but that is kind of the answer. Is how good is the 900F? It's not better than a 95D. I would take the QN95D over the QN900F. I would take the QN95D over the QN990F, right? So that's just something for you guys to consider. Oh, you know what's great? Let's do a little bit of Netflix. Let me see here. Because we noticed how it changed the skin tones a little bit, right? The reds a little bit. Let's see what happens. Now, the red on the Netflix looks the same right here, but we'll see. Air Force Elite Thunderbirds. I'm gonna get canceled for playing this. Let's look for some facial expressions here. Because skin tones is what you guys will notice most. Ah, they look great. They look identical. Maybe, no, I don't want to be pulling straws here, but let's see. Right? So we're on Netflix now, just playing around, seeing skin tones with you guys. Look very similar. Okay, let's get a close-up of skin tones. Maybe this might not be the best. Here we go. Let's look at some minorities. We gotta love the skin tones. They have deep reds, so let's see. Here, this could be a close-up right here. Gotta wait for his face. Ah, that didn't work out. Here we go. Very similar, very similar. But let's go with something that maybe is a little bit richer in terms of facial expressions and whatnot here. Witcher is always good. Oh, here's a good one. Everyone's hero. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go close up right there. This is a great one. Ah, here we go. This is where you see that slight improvement to the rich tones. There is more rich red tones in the S90F after Class C's adjustment. That's kind of missing on the TV above. I'm trying to adjust my exposure so you guys can see that. There we go. I think you guys can see that. I think one more click will do it. Okay, there we go. That is correct, that is correct, Classy. I thought the same thing. FOMO, you need to pull in the 3110 to see which is right. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I have space. I could pull it in right now. You guys have time? I mean, let's get a vote. Should I pull in the 3110 to see which one's right? The top one, slightly paler than the bottom, right? I don't know if you guys noticed that. I know it is YouTube. I'm doing my best to emphasize the differences here. But what are your thoughts? Who has time for the 3110? You know, I would assume someone would say no. I was just waiting for someone to say no, but all I get are yeses. So, all right. So entertain yourself, my friends. Give me 3 minutes. I'll pull it out and let's hope for the best. Let's hope I have space. This thing is like 100 pounds of awesome. I guess this is why you get a reference monitor, right? You pull it out when the crowds say, "Hey, pull out the reference monitor." You do it. I can't see. Hopefully it's on the right setting. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, how funny is this? So, all right, let me see if I can adjust this. You guys can see this better. I gotta wait for the monitor to warm up for a second. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Buddy's covering it. Here you go. There you go. All right. Here you go. Okay. So the bottom has a touch too much red, I'm sorry to say. Maybe if I move my camera a little bit closer, we can get a, and then I'll adjust it accordingly. Okay. There we go. Make sure you guys see that. Oh, too far to one side. There we go. Ah. Okay. Here we have it. I'll let you guys decide. I think I've done enough. Okay, let's keep talking. Got a super chat. Oh, a few of them. Hector Saldana. Let's move it up here. Got a G5, and notice that in Dolby Vision, all picture modes except Vivid are dim. Doesn't matter if brightness is at max. Do I have a panel issue? Oh, I was hoping someone would ask this question because coincidentally, I got the same phone call from our friend Brian, and his comment, what the hell's wrong with Dolby Vision? It's so dim. Okay, so Hector, the good news is 2 people have informed me they have a problem with Dolby Vision on the G5. Brian is one. He was watching Extraction. He's like, the heck? And now he doesn't remember Extraction being that dim. So what he did was, oh, there's definitely a brightness difference here. Maybe I'm popping up too hard. And so he pulled out his LG C series. I don't know, like a C1. And the C1 definitely, oh, you know why? OLED dimming. Sorry, guys. The reference monitor does not dim ASBL, but OLED does. So that's what happens. Let's look at this one. Yeah, if I stay on a static content too long, they will dim. You got to protect yourself, right? So let's look at some facial close-ups. Here's a good one. Actually, I want something even closer than a close-up. Oh, actually, yeah, I tried this. I think it was good right there. Okay, I think we can say that the S90F, okay, so the reference monitor is slightly closer to S95D than S90F, but again, neither TVs are calibrated, right? We're just having fun with the settings. So you guys can see that. But let me change the content real quick before I get in trouble. YouTube's like, wait, that's too much Witcher. Let's go back. I will answer your question, Hector. But I think I already gave you a hint of what's happening, unfortunately. All right. Thank you, Jennifer Gala, again, for providing us with amazing HDR content, as you see here. And so now you have a reference monitor to compare. So back to your question. Yes, Dolby Vision appears to be dark, except in vivid, in all picture modes except vivid are dim. Yeah, you're not the only one. Brian has contacted LG. He's informed them, said, guys, what's happening here? And hopefully we'll have a fix for that as well. But add that to a list of woes, that LG G5. Now again, that's why he called me. He's like, I didn't notice this being mentioned in the reviews, so I just wanted to see if it's just me. Hector, you're number 2. Thank you for that super chat. Don't feel alone. I am sure Brian will do a tech therapy video on that, no doubt. Hey buddy, how come other TV brands can't catch up to Sony processing chip power? The XR cognitive processor is so far ahead. I call it revolutionary. Case in point, the A95L's champ twice. And if before you guys call Getty a Sony fanboy, the man's buying Hisense and TCLs as well. So he's just calling it what it is. And I'd love to hear Classy's comment on this. But I agree holistically, right? We're not going to pick and choose specific scenes or whatever. Just holistically, Sony kind of gets everything right. It doesn't excel in any one thing, but it isn't bad in any one thing. And oftentimes, when you're above average, sometimes a bit far above average in everything, that's what it takes to win. And this is after calibration, of course. And so, like, I have a bunch of Sony TVs, right? My A9G, my first OLED. I had the Sony X900. I've had the Sony, my gosh, DirectView X80J. I've had the A95K, the A95L, the Bravia 7, Bravia 9, of course. And all of them consistently impress me with skin tones. That's what their focus is. Look, everything else may be screwed up, right? We might not be bright. We might, have a little bit of blooming, but we will do two things better than anybody else. Skin tones are natural, out of the box, and shadow detail will be to the best of that TV's capability. So if it's an LCD TV, we're going to tune shadow to the best of that technology. It may not be perfect, but no one else tunes shadow detail to that technology with this many dimming zones as well as us. That's their focus. Shadow detail, color skin tones. They might have blooming. They might not have the perfect dark blacks on an LCD TV. In an OLED, right, it may not have the best latency, just all the things, the technical specs that have nothing to do with skin tone and shadow detail. Sony doesn't care. Now, from there, they start to trickle down everything else because they feel people, when they see our TV and they see people on the TV, right, characters and actors and news reporters, they're going to go, wow, those people look natural. That's what they want people to say. And that's it. They don't want to spend any time on anything else. That's why they will never win the brightness contest like LG will. And their Dolby Vision also is flawed, right? They're sometimes too dark, sometimes too bright. You saw in my last live stream, Sony had issues. But that's not their thing either. Even Dolby Vision, like whatever, we want to make HDR10, which is the most common. Perfect, right? So that's to your point. They chose, everyone has to choose their strength, and the poison is what it is, right? And so as a consumer, if you watch a lot of movies with skin tones and facial expressions, get a Sony, because all the other stuff are distractions to you that you don't care about. If you're a gamer, well, you have Samsung and LG. Sony, well, it's what it is. So definitely you have to choose a TV that fits your viewing situation. But that's why Sony does so well, is they know where to put their effort in processing, and it's not wrong. Hey, plasma TV for gaming. You should get the S95F. I know you want to get, I mean, the S90F. I know you want to get the S95F and peel that thing off, right? But I'm telling you, man, this S90F is the glossy version of the S95D. My S95D is glossy, right? I peeled it off, and this thing is keeping up. It's just amazing. So come on, you don't need that extra brightness, do you? You don't want the One Connect box, or wait until next year and get the S90G, which might perform like the S95F, right? Who knows? And by the way, your G5 video yesterday, so much passion. I love it. You gotta do more of that, man. You're such a passionate man. You guys haven't seen Plasma TV for Gaming? Go for it. And here's a person that only buys Sony for a reason. Lisa, I love you. Welcome. Tim, I agree. Upscaling is good. Lisa has the A95K. She's got the Bravia 8, the A80L. Loves Sony, right? Because she knows what she likes. And good choices. Good choices. And I've never had TVs compared to dim sum. Some Chinese dishes will be tasted differently person to person. I like my TV spicy. HDR spicy. That's another thing I have to remind you guys. So as you guys know, I love HDR impact. And so the G5, the reason I love the G5, I'm all about HDR impact. That's why when we do the comparison in a bright room, not a big deal, because it's a bright room. We weren't focused on dark content, because it's impossible to really accurately assess dark content in a bright room. It's impossible. So in a bright room, that G5 is untouchable. And then the issues come out. Of course, it would be darkroom shadow details. So when I get the G5 into my studio, which is completely dark and fully light controlled, we can start taking it apart. But for me, would I still get the G5? I mean, it's on its way, right? Absolutely. Even if LG doesn't fix anything at all, I know my use case. That G5 is for sports, bright room sports, HDR impact, all of that stuff. I'm fine with it. Now, the things that Plasma really did a good job pointing out from the ratings review, of course, watch the ratings review, is 165 hertz latency. Oh, I'm not a PC gamer. I'm a console gamer, and I'm used to Bravia 8 II latency, right? So not a big deal for me. And more importantly, though, I know what I watch. I watch a lot of SDR TV shows, right? Korean drama, Mandarin drama, all that stuff, not a big deal. But if I watch movies like 1917, maybe It, Chapter 2, right? Moody, dark movies, yeah, I'd have a problem. It's just, fortunately, I don't watch those kind of stuff. I'm more of the Avengers, Galaxy of the Guardians, just big, bombastic, bright room TV shows where I enjoy. But that's me. If you guys, that's why I always ask you, what kind of content do you watch? This G5 definitely is a disappointment that it couldn't get everything right. And that's painful to me, because I'm like, but we'll have the Panasonic, and we'll see if the Panasonic can address those issues. It'll be fun, definitely. And this is why you need a calibrator. Classy is looking at the reference monitor, the 3110 below, or to the side below me. Some colors with the S90F are closer to the 3110. I agree. I see some of that. And sometimes the S95D is. With further calibration, the S90F, S95F should match the reference well. And he's just setting up the shootout, right? Right, Classy? This shootout is going to be so great. Could this be the year that Samsung wins and Sony's left wondering, what happened? I so want that to happen. Don't tell Sony, but I so want Samsung to win because I've been predicting Samsung would win for 2 years now, right? I predicted the S95C, I predicted the S95D, so maybe this year S95F will come to play. Classy, we can only do what we can do, right? Because it's up to the judges at the end of the day. No, this is going to be fun. So much fun. And got another super chat. Hey, thank you, Warwarg. LG G5. How worried should I be about the HDR issues? Oh, perfect question, perfect timing. What did I say? What is it you watch? So Warwarg, tell me. 80% of the time, what kind of TV shows do you watch? Movies, right? If it's HDR, near black, shadowy, right, moody, you may have an issue. But if it's stuff like this, what we're seeing right now, right, just documentaries, no shadow detail, no issue. Sports, no issues. But again, tell me, what is your HDR content that you watch realistically now? Because no TV is perfect. You got to choose your poison. Now, the S95F and the Bravia 8 Mark II, both are very close, with each one having their warts, warts, but those warts may be more acceptable. The S95F wart is that anti-glare matte screen, and the Sony wart, arguably gaming performance, gaming options, and ultimate brightness will be a step behind the S95F. So, are these weaknesses acceptable to you? That's key. When did this conversation turn? What's the point of living? You never have salt, olive oil? Some of your side conversations crack me up. And just so you guys know, I'm keto as well as many of you, and which means you can never eliminate carbs, right? Just eating a celery. Guess what? Fiber is carb. It's just not digestible, but it's carb. So I'm a big keto guy because as you get older, sugar sensitivity, you got to watch your pre-diabetes, all that good stuff. I'm a fitness nut. So yeah, I love that you guys have these great side conversations. What about the S90F? The S90F is the S95D, but without the One Connect box and without the matte screen. Arguably, an improvement. S95F, consider it the S95D without the anti-glare and without the One Connect box. And if that's something you're looking for, oh yeah, here's a big difference. This orange, I notice, is not as, well, because after Classy's very cool adjustment, the orange is a little bit deeper on the S90F. You too can get that. But the S90F, highly recommended. I mean, well, let's look at context. The Samsung S95D was my benchmark TV all of 2024 and continues to be the TV I'm referencing into 2025 until I get, well, now the Bravia 8. I'd say the Bravia 8 Mark II has taken its place. Bravia 8 Mark II is probably on benchmark now, but the S95D is such a good TV, and the S90F literally matches it pixel for pixel. So highly recommended. Now at these prices, you might want to wait until Black Friday. But that means that the S95D at 77 inches for $2,300 or whatever it is, if you're an offer member for Samsung.com, that is a great price for a really good TV. Or you can wait till Black Friday and pay about that much for the S90F. Maybe $19.99, maybe, if you're lucky. I too have to give up pizza, buddy. So have one in my honor as well. And as well as Brian. Have 2 more slices. So buddy's saying, you mean no added sugar because a lot of foods have sugar naturally or processed carbs. Sad to hear about the pizza. I'll have a slice in your honor. In my honor as well as in Brian. So 2 more slices, buddy, please. And then let me know how you feel the next day. Brian had a slice of pizza the other day. And a week later, he's like, I'm still paying for it. I'm dying. I will never have pizza again. Okay, hey, Bat Tech. This is an interesting question. Is there a difference safety dimming on the S95F versus S90F? Can the S90F boost a stable image longer? Yes. Okay, so as you saw, the S90F dimming is identical to the S95D. When I did my comparison, so we could say that the S90F has the same dimming algorithm as the S95D. And we saw when the S95F was against the S95D, the S95F preserved its brightness longer. So extrapolating that, the answer is the S95F boosts a stable brightness longer. That is my expectation based on what I saw at Valley Electronics when we kind of played with that part of it, or we just held an image, talked about it, and the S95D just dropped in brightness within a few minutes, very much the way my S95D did just earlier, and the S90F did the exact same thing, dropped. So I think they are probably sharing some algorithm for that same panel, possibly. Good question, BatTech. You know, watch, he gets the S95F. FOMO, I blame you. I can't stand the dimming on the S95F. But no, I feel, now the G5 will hold onto it longest. And that's why I still like the G5 for sports. The G5 definitely holds on to it longest. But the S95F is second. And the Bravia 8, shockingly, is right there too. So I think this new panel this year is doing a great job. FOMO, your vibes are the best. Why, thank you, Apple Jelly. Here's to you. Let me double check things. Okay. We'll wrap up soon. I think I've answered enough questions, right? Gotta go grab lunch. I haven't had lunch yet. No sacrificial eating for me. Lisa, does that mean you're vegetarian? I hear sacrifice. I'm thinking, wait, vegan? Let me know. No sacrificial eating. You know what? Okay. I don't call it sacrificial eating. I call it creatively making food. So if you don't know, I love cooking as well. So I'm like, okay, what can I make given my options, right? And you'll be surprised what you can make, right? So I call it, what is it artists always say? When you constrain artists, ooh, what's this, Interstellar? I purchased it? It's available? Oh, ooh, SDR, no bueno, never mind. I can tell it's SDR because the reference monitor just went crazy. Sorry about that, guys. That was SDR. Here. But yeah, so artists, when you constrain them, they perform even better. The worst thing you can give an artist is, here's all the tools you need to make an amazing painting. But instead you say to them, look, I'm just going to give you one thing. Charcoal and this dirty canvas. And it's the size of a wall, right? 8 by 10 feet. Do something with it within 2 hours. You do that, something amazing happens, right? Whether it's a musician, art, or cooking, when you constrain people and they take their craft seriously, it really drives them to produce amazing things. So not to say that I'm amazing, but it definitely allows me to create dishes I never thought I would make better. So, oh yeah. Pizza is comfort food. I cannot agree more. And that doesn't mean I don't eat pizza. I eat pizza once or twice a year, but it has to be amazing. It's not like Domino's, right? It has to be an event pizza. Like I'm in New York, I've been recommended this pizza, or I'm in Arizona and the god of pizza is there. I forgot his name now. Was it? I saw this special on Netflix about the best pizza maker in the world, right? There's one in Arizona, Phoenix, and then there's one in Italy, Rome. Those pizzas, oh, I will have, right? Because I'm such a fitness freak that I'll run the entire day to make it worthwhile. But yes, I will have pizza once or twice a year. Hey, thoughts on the new Hisense versus TCL? Excellent question. I have lots of thoughts on it. So the TCL, well, I only have one Hisense, the U8Q. The U8Q and the QM7K, definitely not Bravia 9 level, but very good. I recommend them for their price. There's no doubt about it. And at $2,500 for a 98-inch TCL QM7K, no-brainer. Get it. It's amazing. And the QM6K at $2,100, can't go wrong with either one. The U8Q, their pricing is already compelling. Like they've already hit street pricing. The U8Q also excellent TV. It's better than the QM7K in terms of its performance for HDR, blooming control, black levels, all of that. Doesn't match the Bravia 9, but for normal content up to 1500 nits of HDR, the U8Q beats the QM7K. However, color accuracy with that blue, teal, maybe over green, whatever it may be, right? Could be an issue. If you notice it, you got to get it calibrated, right? Give Classy a call. But if you don't notice it, it's a winner because technically the U8Q is an amazing TV that is 100% improved over last year's U8 series, which left me kind of cold. Now, the UN9Q remains to be seen. I have the QM8Q 85-inch that I will be live streaming next week so you guys can see how good it is, right? This is my first 85-inch TV, and the larger sizes have slightly more dimming zone density, you know, so a lot of good stuff. And I'm trying to get the Bravia 7 85-inch to do a side-by-side for you guys so you guys can see at the 85-inch how do they compare in terms of pricing or performance. I might be able to get the Bravia 9 at the 85-inch. I'm talking to Sony now to see if they'll send it to me. But that way you guys can see, you know, my first 85-inch comparison. And yes, I even bought a stand for a 100-inch TV if that ever comes. But I have the stand ready. So we're going to have fun with Hisense and TCL's large TVs this year. The S95F looks gorgeous. It does. If only I had it. I have the S95F will come after the S90F is done. Right now it's the S95D and the S90F. And they're perfect match for each other. And it's interesting that they're both tone mapped down because as you can see, the reference monitor is definitely hitting it correctly, right? So if I get it to the right, there you go. And even it's so bright that even my reference monitor is clipping. So let me go back. This is what I love, right? When it gets too bright, Jennifer breaks my reference monitor. She gets it to clip because the window is so large, it cannot keep up. And unlike the other TVs, a reference monitor does not have tone mapping, just so you guys know. It clips, right? It hard clips. And so when you see the reference monitor suddenly turn white, it's because it's clipping. So here we go. Colors are the same, right? Because they can all handle 1,000 nits. As the TVs get brighter and brighter, you'll see that it starts to stay dim because it cannot hit that brightness and preserve the color. Whereas the reference monitor keeps on going until it absolutely clips to heck. Like right now, it's preserving some color still, right? 2,000 nits, it could do it. But because that cement is like, what, 40% of the image, it cannot go beyond 1,500 nits after that. And the TV's like, nope, we're done too. We'll bring tone mapping down. And you can see the slight differences in tone mapping between the S90F and the S95D. So I just had to comment on that for you guys. Yeah, what is the third screen on the right? It is the 3110 reference monitor. And you know what? My bad. I need to put that there. So let me do that right now. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, what? No. This is the 3110 reference monitor. It is the HDR reference monitor, the only Sony HDR reference monitor, and it's being used by movie studios. It was used to grade F1, that new Brad Pitt movie. They used a 3110 to grade it, and it's going to be an amazing HDR movie, right? So there we go. Yep, right there, so you guys can see it. All right. And I think we're going to wrap it up in a minute here. Okay, I think we got all the super chats. If you have any questions, ask it now, my friends. We're wrapping it up, wrapping it up. And I think this is a great way to end it. Brandon Kimball says, the trouble comes when you load up your pizza with toppings. Brandon, this is why I love super thin pizzas loaded with toppings, right? As long as I get the crisp. So I love the actual crust for its crisp, but I don't need that dense starch. I want the crisp, but I love the toppings. And then it's just a beautiful thing. So how many of you guys are thin crust lovers? How many are thick crust lovers? The thick crust, I think it overpowers the pizza, but I get it. I understand you like that thick pan crust, but I like it thin. And I just want that crisp. And then everything else on top is just a magical thing, but not too thick. Like I don't want it like a pie, right? Yeah, pizza. Good stuff. And with that, buddy, thank you for that super sticker. Your para character cheerfully blowing a party horn. I'm all about it. Thank you for your generosity, my friend. Good. We'll go off topic for a second. What is the value by between the two of these? The value is get the cheaper TV. They perform identically. The S95D, last year's flagship, and this year's mid-tier S90F, they perform identically. Get the cheaper TV, or unless you need one connect or you need the anti-glare, then you would get the S95D, which has the anti-glare. Most people don't like the anti-glare, FYI, so you might want to stay away from it if that's not your thing. The biggest difference really is that anti-glare on the S95D and the One Connect box. The S90F has the normal, glossy, regular anti-reflection, right? Nothing special. And it doesn't have the One Connect box. So the S95D is slightly more expensive, street pricing, because of those two items, which are premium items that's also on the S95F. Now the S95F definitely is brighter than either of these two TVs, right? It outperforms them, but you may not even see that difference. So image quality wise, they're the same. If that's all you care about, get the cheaper TV. Outside of image quality, the S95D has those things I mentioned. Now, onto the more fun stuff. Also, I want to hear more about this fitness routine. I'm a marathoner, so I am definitely not a marathoner. I did run cross country, but that's not me, right? I don't like sprained ankles. I sprained my ankles way too many times. I'm all about high intensity interval training because I'd like my heart rate to go up and down, right? I want to increase my VO2 max. So what I do is I do at least 2 high intensity workouts a week, about 55 minutes, right, in class. And then I do at least 3 days of strength training. Strength, not to build muscle, but to build strength, which as we know is very different than building muscle. Building for strength is a different workout. Building for hypertrophy, muscle, is a completely different workout. That requires lots of volume, lots of frequency. That's not me because I don't want my tendons to be at risk. And I do that. I do tendon strengthening workouts, right? Which is a lot of isometric at the limit for 1 minute intervals, 10 seconds, 10 times. But as far as strength building, right, I follow the school of keeping 20% in reserve. So whatever my max is at 8 reps to failure, if that's my max weight, I only go up to 5 or 6, and I rest 5 minutes in between because I'm all about strength, right? You want the recovery. And in between, you're like, wait, what are you doing for 5 minutes? Sitting around? So during the 5 minutes, I do my tendon training, right? So then I go into isometric using a different muscle group, normally my knees or my shoulders or whatever. And I'm always focused on my elbows because that's where my tendons are weakest. And I try to fit in at least 3 zone 2, which is running at a steady pace where I only breathe through my nose, right? I have nothing to measure because I don't have time for that. I breathe through my nose, but I push my limit where any harder, I have to breathe through my mouth. So for me, that's around 126 beats per minute, but everyone's different, I get it. So for me, it's just I use my nose. If I can still talk, or so I always call Brian on the phone, hey, it's time to talk. I'm doing my zone 2. So I keep my pace so I can maintain a conversation or breathe through my nose. And I do that for about 1 hour, 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I kind of alternate through that, right? Just if I'm bored. And then 1 day a week, sometimes 2 days, I take off and I just don't work out at all, right? I recover. So that's kind of like what I rotate through. But yes, now you know my routine. I'm sure you're glad you asked. And I am starting a fitness channel at some point this year. This is why I'm like so into it, right? I'm getting my personal trainer certification because I've been like, wait a minute, I've been doing this for so long. Why am I not getting certified? And I'm getting my metabolic nutritional coach certification. So I'm going to start a second channel, cooking, like just low-carb meals, right? Just doing fun stuff that has nothing to do with TVs, but helping you guys live a better life each day, right? So we're gonna have fun. Okay, guys, I'm sure that was too much info. Let me check. Oh, here we go. Almost missed this. Thank you for that super chat, L. McCoy. And then with that, I'll answer this, and then we'll be off. You guys can enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. If I get the S95D, is it safe to download the latest firmware update? Okay, we're gonna talk about that. Also, is it true that ABL is aggressive due to having thermal throttle issues? So, two great questions. We'll hit them one at a time. Is it safe to download the latest firmware update? The answer is it's never safe. Let others be your guinea pig. So, unplug it from, well, first of all, make sure you're not on auto update, right? Make sure you don't update anything. And some people take the extra extreme of not even plugging into the internet because they're streaming off of an external device anyway. Okay, and the reason is this. Why be the guinea pig when you can let others do it? Then they go on the owner forums and they start complaining at length at all the problems, and then you can read before you decide whether this upgrade is for you, because every upgrade does address something. Sometimes it's security, sometimes it's to add a feature, take away a feature, whatever it is. For example, I'm waiting for the S95D to get the One UI update. Well, what's the One UI update? This. You see the difference, right? The TV below has the One UI, which is the S90F, and the TV on top doesn't. I have to go through this crazy menu system, right, to get to what I want, whereas the One UI below with the S90F, it's a lot quicker. Well, it feels a lot quicker, right? And it leaves the rest of the screen open. So when I'm playing with the picture stuff, right, everything stays open. Whereas on the S95F, it covers the screen, right? It's like, oh, I can't see a damn thing. So if that comes in a firmware update, I want it. But then what if they, I don't know, nix something, right? Like, oh, suddenly it's less bright, blah, blah, blah. That's always the risk that in fixing one thing, they break something else or intentionally do something else that you might want. So definitely don't update until you know exactly what the update does. Then you can informed decision, decide, hey, I like that update. It's worth it. I want it. And the only way to know really is to go on the owner's forum, right? So that's one. The second is also, is it true that ABL, which is the automatic brightness limiter, is aggressive due to it having thermal throttle issues? So let's talk about aggressive and thermal throttle. What is ABL? And there's a lot of misunderstanding, right? So that's the, the brightness limiter. That's different than you put on a scene and then it starts to dim over time, right? That's dimming over time, or otherwise known as ASBL. It's because your static image, it's bright, and the TV is like, wait a minute, this is a static image. It shouldn't stay on. It means you forgot. So we'll just dim it for you to protect the TV. So ASBL, where you hold a bright image and over time, the TV doesn't like it, OLED specifically, and it starts to dim. And this happens in sports, right? You have it in vivid mode and you have bright sports scene, but the entire scene is always going to be bright. Watching skiing, right? It's always going to be snow for the next hour. And the TV is like, after 3 minutes, or hockey, after 3 minutes, like, wait, this is too bright. And then after 5 minutes, it starts to dim and then it hits its brightness it wants to be. So no one likes that. So that's ASBL, or dimming over time. Then you have ABL, which means the TV receives a signal and it automatically assesses whether it can handle the brightness of this signal. So specifically, let's say it gets this right here, this super bright scene, right? The TV's like, whoa, 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 this is too bright. And they give you a scene that's dimmer so that you can get all the color and it fits what you said, the thermal. So it's not thermal throttle. Thermal throttling would be ASBL. It's overheating, it's staying bright too long. All of that is thermal throttling. ABL is, we don't have the energy to even do this. Let's say the TV has, round number, right? I'm completely wrong, 100 watts available. Well, it has 100 watts available. And if the brightness requires 150 watts, you're not going to get 150 watts. The power unit, the power supply, the power board can only handle 100 watts. So it's going to have to decide, okay, how do we play with this scene to fit it in 100 watts? Well, we'll make this bright, but then we'll dim this part, like whatever, right? Like right here, oh, we're going to make the top really bright, but the rest is really dark. Each TV will decide how ABL works. And that's every scene. It'll do that assessment, but it doesn't change over time. So aggressive ABL means when you put on a scene, it's suddenly, wow, this scene is a lot dimmer than that scene because the two TVs, one has more energy available to it, a larger power board, larger PSU, and the panel can handle it. So this is why when you have a G5 and a C5, same scene, boom, but the C5 looks dimmer. Well, the C5 has a lesser panel, and because it's a lesser panel, it has a weaker power board, and so net, it's going to use less energy available for its weaker panel, and so it's going to be dimmer. Boom, you see it right away. Whereas if you have the G5 and the S95F, same scene, bright, they both look bright, but then over time, same bright scene doesn't change, the S95F starts to dim, and it starts to dim. And at the end, after 20 minutes, the G5 is brighter than the S95F, same scene. That is the G5 saying, our power board, one, can handle this. Number two, we have a better thermal management. And number three, we're not afraid of burn-in because we feel that our OLED technology can handle this heat and brightness, and we have enough energy to feed it. The Samsung is like, okay, we could be as bright, but we're not going to take a chance. Either there's not enough energy available to it, or we just don't want to risk shortening the life of the panel. And so that affects whether or how long the TVs hold that brightness, even though it may end up looking the same at the start. So hopefully that answers your question, but good question. It's a good time to catch up on what this stuff means with everyone. And hopefully that made sense to anyone. Okay. And Classy, this is a great point. Unfortunately, the logo dimming setting dims the whole image and not just the logo, right? And if you notice, some TVs, the logos are brighter than others, right? So I don't know. This is just so many factors, but you're right? Sometimes, and then don't forget the pixel shifting, right? Like, wait, the image is like this. It's not that bad, but I just think it's funny. Okay. I love it. You guys have some great questions today. So what I'll do, and Jesse, this is a good follow-up question. What limits the CNN or other overlays of bright static logos, right? So you got those little tickers on the bottom, right? Sports ticker, news ticker, whatever. It's that, well, hopefully, it's that logo dimming feature and the ASBL, right? They work together to recognize, okay, this static is way too bright. Even though it's only one part of the scene, it will dim the whole scene. The TVs are not at the point, you would think it would be, but they're not at the point where they only dim that image yet. With AI, I hope they will in the future, but it appears that they dim the entire image. So even if one part of the image is super bright, does not matter. The whole image will dim as a result to adjust for that one element. And so that's how they address static logos. But to your point, Jesse, static logos are never good for OLED. Even when they do that dimming, it's still going to increase your risk of burn-in for that logo. So, all right. Now I think we're good. And hey, you're welcome. I know your question is a good one. That's why I had to take my time to answer it. People forget what this stuff means. Hey, Ramon, does anyone have access to the interview he did with the CEO of Nanosys? You know that CEO isn't there anymore. It's Jason Hartlow. He's moved on to bigger and greater things. And since then, Nanosys has been acquired by Shea Chemical. So their CEO is a completely different team, completely different leadership. And a lot of my old videos I had to take down, mostly because, and you'll see a lot of this on a lot of channels, YouTube is having issues with older videos where a lot of chat bots, spam bots, they're spamming the chats, they're doing whatever they're doing to these older videos, and it's affecting our views because it makes our channel feel like, wait a minute, where are these views coming from Pakistan or India? And then YouTube comes after me saying, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, what are you talking about? What's with all these weird views from foreign countries? I'm like, okay, great. So I had to not just unlist, literally delete older videos just because YouTube cannot tell the difference between legit views and weird spam bots, and it's no one's fault other than the spam bots are attacking every creator, but they're hitting the old videos because creators don't care. After 5 years old, they just leave it up. So these spam bots are hitting these older videos and it's affecting us. And so we have to go back and literally take them offline because we don't have time to look at those spam bots doing what they do. So I apologize, Ramon. But if there's anything specific to that interview you want to know, maybe I'll remember. So you can ask that in the next stream. I got to run though. Okay, well, with that, let's end it. Hopefully, you guys have decided that the S90F on Black Friday is the TV to get, or if you want to get it now, the S95D, great TV to get. Let me know in the comments below, what's your poison? Or are you going to wait for 2026? And thank you for showing up, everyone. Until next time, stop the FOMO.